Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. We're going to start with just some quiet sitting for about 10 minutes. So, from wherever you are, step one, get comfortable. Find a rooted basis for your body in a way that feels supported and stable, just enough to give you a sense of ease, a sense of comfort and support, and also just enough to give you the tools to rise up through your spine into an alert presence, so that we have equal balance of stability and ease. Welcome, come on in. You're here for meditation?
Yes.
Very nice to have you. Get whatever you need to be comfortable. There's bolsters and blankets and blocks there if you'd like. Use the wall as you wish. So, the idea of balancing steadiness and alert, awake quality with an easeful being in the body is, I believe, the portal into meditation. And the next portal is the breath. So find a way to connect with a steady flow of in and out. And then just settle into that. You can have your eyes closed, or you can have them simply softened downward. Reconnecting awareness at any point necessary with the rising tide of an inhale and the receding tide of exhale. And every other piece of awareness that's present can get drawn into that gentle tide of in and out. As extraneous thoughts make their way into the forefront of your consciousness, let them be enveloped in the gentle tide of in-breath and out-breath, like light shells on the beach. As the tide draws them back into the ocean, they don't go away. We're not seeking to make anything go away. We're seeking simply to make these shells of thought lighter, more easily changeable, more easily let goable. And every moment offers a new opportunity to come back to the object of attention, which is the breath. And we can take comfort in knowing there are infinite opportunities. Sitting for another couple of minutes here, letting the gentle quiet be enlivened by the breath rather than dampened by thoughts. And with your next breath, take a sweeping inhale and let the exhale bring some extra ease to the body, and you might stretch or yawn or twist or turn or reset your arrangement. So we'll chat a little bit. So I titled the talk this week, Dissolution. Not to be confused with disillusionment, although that's not irrelevant here, but that's for another time. This is dissolution. And when we think of that word like dissolving or like breaking apart as a negative thing, it has a negative connotation, an ending of something, a divorce or a separation of component parts. And because we tend to not want things to be dissolute, right? We want things to be coherent. We rely on habit and continuity and sameness and togetherness, and those are all things that we feel like we can get behind, and that you really need in your life, and that's true of certain things. However, if you hold up this word disillusion in the context of suffering, then, and you note the causes of suffering, the headliner among them being attachment, then you move toward a more idealized notion of disillusion. So I'll say more. If we accept the premise of yogic and Buddhist philosophy traditions that both agree, it's one thing they both do agree on, that attachment and its partner in crime, aversion, two sides of the same coin, are at the root of all suffering, then dissolution might be just the thing we're seeking. Because if we can dissolve those attachments and those aversions, the things that grip us in holding patterns of discomfort or longing or grief or anger or resentment or sorrow or whatever the thing is, then we might find some freedom. In terms of yogic philosophy, we often think of it, and the meaning of the word yoga is to yoke or combine or to connect body and mind and breath and spirit. And in fact, however, it says in the Yoga Sutras that before we can be yoked to the ultimate nature of consciousness, we actually have to disconnect. We have to be in a state of dissolution of the material from the spirit. And it says that ignorance or a lack of seeing this truth clearly is caused by confusing consciousness with form. In this tradition, they are not the same thing. And that the yoking of the two, consciousness or spirit, and form or materiality, is that a word? The yoking of those two obscures pure consciousness. You know, my house, my car, my clothes are not God. They're just things that come and go in and out of fashion, literally. I looked at this today and I thought, is this still okay? Yeah, I still like it. So, but at some point I won't, right? Or I may outgrow it, or it may rip and tear. You got the idea. So this confusion, this obscuring pure consciousness by the prevalence of materiality in the world, I said that word again, it renders us attached to form, to stuff, and even to people, right? And it's in that misleading union where all painful experience is derived. Even loving another person implies the potential for a painful, grievous loss. And we all know it and we all do it anyway, thank goodness. And also, we are well served to recognize that. So in these traditions, we are told that we can destroy this ignorance, this confusion, and heal this pain when we are able to discern or use discernment to dissolve the grip that we have on hard, fastening ideas of value and worth to the material world. Even more directly, from the Buddhist perspective, we're told that there isn't even anything ever holding these component parts together in the first place beyond the construct of our mind. That all suffering comes from the compulsion to ascribe permanence to that which is impermanent, which is basically everything. Now, the suggestion here, I want to be really clear, is not to detach from love and care of the people that are in our lives. It's not that at all. It is to detach from our ideas about the way we want them to be. And that's the part that's really sticky. To recognize that true unconditional love is just that unconditional, unconditioned by material form in words or behaviors or ways of being present. So one really nice place to work with this idea in meditation, this idea of dissolution, is to use the exhale as an object of attention. Because the exhale is the moment where we let go. So as we sit for another bit of time and slow down our minds, we can focus on the exhale, each one as its own sort of dissolution, that we can use our awareness to watch the breath exit and dissolve every time we breathe out, and then simply sit for as long as we can stand it in the midst of emptiness. The inhale will come. We don't have to worry about that. So we don't even have to grasp that. We don't have to hold on to or worry about or decide, well, what am I going to do when that inhale comes? What am I supposed to do with my mind? Am I supposed to? No, yes, maybe. It doesn't matter. It's the exhale that we want to rely on here as the object of awareness and as the embodiment of dissolution. So even as it will happen that all the constituent thoughts and feelings about being alive are going to be present, we're sharpening our focus on the exhale and being with it for as long as we can stand to watch it dissolve. All right, so let's try it. Once again, find a way to be comfortable, a way to be supported by your seat so that you're in a state of ease, and also to be alert and awake and present in a state of full awareness. So with every exhale, note the feeling of breath being released through the nostrils. Pretend you can see that stream and watch it dissolve. We're not doing anything about the inhale except to let it happen. And we're not doing anything about the intervening thoughts except to notice when the next exhale is ready to leave. Part of the temptations of the active mind involve that urge, that compulsion to group the thoughts that we have into a constructed notion of who we are. This is this is what Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. And we're challenging that a little bit. We're sort of pushing back on that notion to say, I am many different things. I am every single one of these breaths, which is emphatically different than the ones that came before and the ones that will come after. This is true down to the cellular levels of us, dividing and changing cells all the time. I dissolve, therefore I am. Stay with the exhale. See if you can count 10 more exhales to finish this round. Let them be slow and luxurious. I've got 5 more. Maybe you're on a different count. Stay with that. Finish your next exhale. I want to share a quote from Carl Jung. He says, humans have been robbed of transcendence by the short-sightedness of the super-intellectuals. Like them, they have fallen into a victimhood of unconsciousness. But our task is exactly the opposite, to become conscious of the contents that press upward from the unconscious. This is the disillusionment of that unconscious block of or mass of ick that drives us in ways that we don't understand or can't comprehend or have no awareness of. The dissolution of the unconscious, these are not Jung's words, these are mine. I'm interpreting this. But the dissolution of the unconscious is to recognize all of the constituent parts of our psyche, of our conditioning, of our reality, of this material world, and not be driven unconsciously by them, but to see them for what they are, which, according to the Buddha, are fleeting bits of simple construct of nothingness and impermanence. Jung goes on to say, we should not remain identical with the unconscious elements of our being, thus evading our destiny, which is to create more and more consciousness. Our destiny is to rise into this fullness of awareness, this fullness of being that doesn't get tugged around blindly by these masses of drive, these boulderfuls of desire and greed and delusion and aversion and frustration. He says, as far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. And that kindling of that light illuminates this dissolution of all of these parts of us that are locked or bound up in suffering. want to offer a flip side of the same idea as I'm interpreting it. Um, and that's from an essay that I came across in the wonderful blog by Maria Popova. It used to be called Brain Pickings. It is now called The Marginalian. And she shares an excerpt from a collection of essays by the naturalist writer Henry Beston, 20th century. This particular one comes from a 1928 collection called The Outermost House, A Year of Life on the Great Beach of Cape Cod, which I immediately, of course, loved because I am a huge fan of spending time on the Cape and have all my life. So Beston is talking about how we have lost touch with darkness because of the industrial age and the technological age that has literally lit up our world to such an extent that we barely ever are in full darkness. So, and the reason I'm saying this is a flip side to Jung's idea, because Jung was talking about kindling the light in darkness. So I'm offering another way of thinking about this dissolution, which is that sometimes we have to be in the dark. We have to let it be dark. And it's the dissolution of these separate of these ideas that we have about our lives, that if we can settle into a place of not attaching to those ideas, that's another way of dissolving this unconscious drive that we have. So Beston writes, our fantastic civilization has fallen out of touch with many aspects of nature, and with none more completely than the night. Primitive folk gathered at the cave mouth round a fire do not fear night. They fear rather the energies and creatures to whom night gives power. So if you see the darkness as this mysterious and scary monolith that holds the things we fear the most, the monster under the bed or in the closet that I was certain was there when I was a small child, right? Then we would be well served to dissolve some of that into just pure ease with darkness, with nature. And then you know how your eyes adjust to the dark if you let them, then you can see the things you thought you couldn't or didn't want to see. So this is another take on this idea of disillusionment. Our modern folk, writes Beston, perhaps afraid of the night because they fear that the vast serenity or the mystery of infinite space or the austerity of the stars. So these are not things to be feared. These are things to be celebrated, to be dissolved of their mystery, to say that those stars are us a trillion gazillion years ago. All right. We've illuminated night so much that we are afraid of it in its totality. Right? And the suggestion here could be that if we could reorient to darkness and nature, that we could experience a disillusion of night and perhaps our fears and disconnection from nature. And that would be a glorious place to be, because so much of our daily modern life is constructed to separate us from nature and perhaps from our unconscious beings. So we'll do a final period of sitting. Feel free to lie down, get as comfortable as you'd like, support yourself as much as it's useful to do. If you enjoyed, if it was of benefit to focus exclusively on the exhale, feel free to do that. Or simply feel the breath in its totality as this wave of nature that moves through us. Continue to invite your awareness back to the moment, gently, non-judgmentally, sweetly, kindly, compassionately. Continuing to use the breath as an anchor and also as an avenue to dissolve the things that feel hard and fastened to our thinking minds. Just a couple more minutes here, inviting yourself in and in and in, back and back and back. With a gentle deepening of the breath and returning to your immediate surroundings. Wake up your body a little bit, wriggle and stretch and shift as you like. And just bring your palms together in front of your heart and release your head down toward your own compassionate heart center. Recognize it as a fulcrum for all of the dissolute aspects of yourself, your awareness, your mind, conscious and unconscious. And perhaps extend a wish that all beings may be happy and know the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And that all beings may know peace and the causes of peace. Thank you. Thank you.